family? Welcome back to the Sageology podcast, where astrology meets spirituality. My name is Sage, and I am an astrologer and spiritual advisor. And on this episode of the Sageology podcast, we will be discussing how to prepare for eclipse season, as well as the astrology and intuitive insights that I have for the week of October 2nd through the 8th. So, just starting off, I don't know how long this episode will be. It might be a pretty lengthy one because I have a lot to discuss, and we are in October already. Isn't that crazy how fast time flies? But anyways, let's start talking about eclipse season. So if you guys are into astrology or just be on social media, you probably have heard people talking about, oh, we're in eclipse season, it's eclipse season, blah, blah, blah. But what actually is eclipse season and what are eclipses? And I'm also going to discuss how to prepare for eclipse seasons, what to expect, and how eclipses could be affecting you personally. So eclipse season is simply around the time in which we will be having eclipses. So eclipses, think of eclipses as like supercharged, very powerful lunations, right? So lunations are full moons and new moons, and eclipses are full moons and new moons that take place very close to the lunar nodes. So this kind of creates fated events, change new directions in your life. So whereas a normal full moon may illuminate something in your life, and a regular new moon will you may want to initiate, new things in your life or bring new things to your awareness. Eclipse is like that, but times 10. So wherever you are having these eclipses in your chart, they will definitely be major life changes in your life. So eclipse season could feel very intense, especially if you are a sensitive person. It's intense for normal people, but at the same time, it's usually, very subtle. If you're not aware of these things, it is very subtle because you're not paying attention to it, but that also doesn't mean that it is not happening in your life. So because the energy is super tense during the eclipse season and we're having a lot of, these big changes, emotions could be on edge, people could be on edge. So this is time to be generally careful and reflective. Changes and things are going to be happening in your life, but this isn't really a good time to just be, I don't want to say outside, but kind of be outside, during eclipse season, you do want to be more reserved and internally and go within and just really do the emotional processing and emotional heavy lifting, because if something is fated to change, it's gonna change anyway. But a lot of times, us humans, we get in the way. So this is not the time to be crazy, hanging out with questionable people, doing dangerous things, because during eclipse season, stuff could go from 0 to 100 real quick. So be careful, y'all, and take that protection seriously, and know yourself, your limits, your boundaries. So we will be experiencing an eclipse next week on the 14th, and it is going to be a Libra solar eclipse. So if you want to know more about that eclipse, make sure that you listen to next week's episode, because as y'all know, I always go in detail and break down lunations, especially eclipses. But so the last eclipse that we had on this Aries Libra axis was on April 20th. So kind of think back to April 20th and see what happened, if anything happened significantly during your life. And also just kind of think about, your mindset, where you were. I'm an avid journaler, so one thing that I like to do is go back and read my journal entries. And also, if you are not a journaler, another thing that you could do is, if you take a lot of pictures in your phone, kind of look back towards your pictures around, April 20th, and sort of see what was going on around that time that could kind of like help you re-gauge, what your mindset was and what you're doing. But anyways, it's important for you to find out what houses sit on the Aries Libra axis in your chart, because that will like tell you which area of your life you will be experiencing change, especially if you are a person with Aries or Libra placements. Just know that over the next year or so, you will just be experiencing lots of change in your life regarding whatever planet you have and regarding whatever house it sits in. So whether you have, Aries Sun, Aries Mars, Aries Venus, Aries Jupiter, or, Libra Venus, Libra Jupiter, Libra Saturn, whatever those Aries Libra placements may be, you want to look at them and you want to pay attention to them. Also, this eclipse season on October 28th, we will be having our last eclipse on the Scorpio Taurus axis. So, praise God, hallelujah. Whew. Hallelujah. Thank you, God. But y'all, that was a rough eclipse cycle for me, and I'm ready for it to end. But this last eclipse, I look at it and it's closing out with a bang. So on October 28th, we're having our last eclipse on the Scorpio Taurus axis. So if you have Scorpio Taurus placements, those eclipses have been going on since November 19th of 2021. So go back to November 19th of 2021, assess what was going on with your life, how you feel. And again, eclipses could be really subtle, you guys. So even if it's not something that happens specifically over this day, sometimes they play out kind of as shifts in mind change, shifts in mentality, that sort of thing. I know what specifically happened towards me in like the end of November. There was definitely some eclipse things going on, but let's say you were in like a new situation, or you adopted a new mindset or philosophy, or a new relationship or something like that. Like really think about what has been going on in your life for the past 2 years, and that could kind of relate. See if you can tie it to the Scorpio Taurus eclipses, and just know that that cycle will be ending this eclipse season as well. So as a cycle is closing out for our Taurus and Scorpio eclipses, and then again, these eclipses are going to be especially powerful for you if you have Taurus and Scorpio placements. So as cycle is closing out for our Taurus Scorpio eclipses, they are entering in for the Aries Libra one. And I always emphasize, like, try and catch it before it happens, so you can just be aware and you know that it's the eclipses and what the eclipses are doing in your life, because that kind of makes it easier to ride the wave. Like sometimes eclipses could be challenging to deal with depending on how it's set up in your chart. So when stuff is happening or like crazy stuff pops off, sometimes it's kind of nice to know. It's like, okay, this is eclipse season, or okay, I'm having eclipses in, this house with this planet, so maybe I need to sit my ass down. Or maybe I could be expecting changes in career, or maybe I could be expecting changes in relationships, or changes in, my home life with family, so just kind of things to expect and to kind of, think about, especially if these eclipses will be significant for you in your chart. Another thing that I want to say too, I believe that I mentioned this, but I want to say it again, like just to be clear. So eclipses, I personally feel as an astrologer that everyone is going to feel them. They're going to initiate change in your life some sort of way. But I do want to emphasize that they will be most important and most felt depending on what house and if you have planets in those signs. So if you have Aries Libra on like angular houses, being the 10th and 4th, or the 1st and 7th, then you're gonna feel that, more importantly, and especially if you have like Aries or Libra placements in your chart, these eclipses are just gonna mean a lot more for you. So if you have these eclipses in houses where, let's say, you have no planets and it's not a angular axis in your chart, you'll be okay. You can still watch out for them and pay attention to them. It's just not going to be as like potent or dramatic as a person who has placements, in those signs or on an angular axis. But if you want to know more about how it will affect you personally, book a reading with your girl. I got you. You can just go to my website and look at consultation. And yeah, use Sageology Podcast as a discount. And I will definitely look at your chart real quick and let you know where in your life this will be happening and kind of like what to experience. And again, to prepare for eclipses, I think it's just kind of best to go within, be reserved, and just kind of like really journal, sit with yourself, see how you feeling, take note of, what you feel motivated to do, what you feel inspired to do, your emotional state, your motivations, what inspires you, that sort of reason, those sorts of things. Also, if there's any like big things going on in your life or dramatic things or weird things, even if it may be small, let's say you got into an argument, like with your girlfriend or your boyfriend and it was resolved, you didn't think nothing of it, I still would like jot that down and pay attention to it, because even though it may seem small now, it may seem bigger later. Or so even if you move or meet a new friend or something like that, or even let's say somebody invites you out to dinner, for a new group of friends, or you find yourself in any sort of new situation or any sort of like little thing that may be kind of odd that you're not paying too much attention to, definitely pay attention to it. And then again, it doesn't have to be specifically on the eclipse day. Like eclipses, start thinking about things that happen that month, because they could be really subtle, y'all, and stuff doesn't always happen specifically on a day. It could happen around that day, which is why we call it an eclipse season. So we aren't having any lunations this week, but best believe like people will be feeling these eclipses right here, right now. So yes, and as I go through, kind of get into the horoscope of the week and talking about what you feel each day, I will definitely give you little tips and stuff and things to think about each day that may relate to the eclipses that we will be having next week. So even though we have no eclipses this week, you guys, please know that it still is eclipse season, and, be smart. Okay, so now let's get into the astrology of the week, starting with Monday. So Monday, we're going to have Mercury go opposite Neptune. Mercury and Virgo go opposite Neptune in Pisces. The moon is going to conjunct Uranus and Taurus. And then the moon is also going to be squaring Venus and Leo. And she's going to trine Mercury and then trine Pluto. So if you guys hear me talk about the astrology at the beginning of the week and you're like, oh my God, what does it mean? What is she saying? What the fuck is a trine? What does that mean that Mercury is in Virgo? Just listen, be patient. I'm gonna break it down to you. So this day, I feel like this is just a very good mercurial thinking day. So first let's talk about Mercury going opposite Neptune. Mercury is the planet that deals with your mind, thinking, writing, analyzing, that sort of stuff, right? And it's going opposite the planet of Neptune, which is like a dreamy planet. It deals with illusions and the imagination. Neptune has a sort of dissolving, dreamy quality where it kind of dilutes things, that sort of thing. So I do feel like this transit is good for healing, and it's also good for using your imagination in a constructive way. So I believe this is our last week of Mercury being in Virgo, and this is also our last week of Venus being in Leo. So I do think that if you appreciate Venus being in Leo, which Venus has been in Leo for forever, pretty much this whole summer. Well, we're in the fall now, but the whole summer Venus was in Leo. And at the end of this week, she's leaving out of that sign. And Mercury has also been in Virgo for a long time because Mercury went retrograde in this sign. So if you are a person who really appreciates Mercury and Virgo, whether it's you are a writer, you are a student, you're an accountant, or you're just like a very mercurial person where it's important for you to like be organized, analyze the details, or understand why. Whether you have a sort of affinity for information and breaking down information and learning, I will say really take advantage of this while Mercury still is in Virgo, because he leaves actually on Wednesday. So this is one of the last major transits we are getting, with Mercury still being exalted and in domicile in the sign that he rules. So back to this transit, right? I feel like Mercury opposite Neptune, this is good for healing. This is good for using your imagination in a constructive way. So again, kind of how I was talking about with the eclipses, things are going to be popping off. This is a great transit for you to like internalize, like go deep into your, not deep into your emotions, but really consider your emotions and break them down. So if you do really want to get ahead, and then also, guys, the reason why I say these things and I point out the astrology to you and I give you these tips, because as an astrologer, I believe that astrology is a wonderful tool to help us alchemize our lives. So when I'm giving you these suggestions, I'm not giving you these suggestions just because, oh, I'm an astrologer and I do horoscopes. No, the reason why I do this, the reason why I do horoscopes, the reason why I break astrology down the way that I do, because I believe that if you can really understand, all astrology is symbolism, and it's as above, so below, right? So what's going on in the sky is actually things that are going on in our lives. And, as humans, we can be so just distracted by bullshit that we lose focus and we lose sight of the things that are important. And it's so easy to miss little things or things that may seem little in your life that are actually eventful and practical and that you need to be paying attention to. So I feel like astrology does a great job of just telling us how to best, acclimatize this energy. So this is a day, like I said, this is a mercurial day, good for Mercury things, Mercury opposite Neptune, good for healing, imagination, journaling. I'm telling you this because in our when we get caught up in day-to-day life, you may not notice that your mind is sharper on this day, or you may not notice that you are more attentive to your emotions this day. You're just going to brush it off and be like, oh, this was an emotional day. When you really could have took that time to sit with yourself and really analyze your emotions and really think about some shit, and you could have solved problems in your life before they even started. So, I feel like astrology gives us this beautiful awareness. It tells us what to pay attention to so we could best alchemize our lives. So, that was a little tangent, but, if you care, if you want to get ahead of these eclipses or kind of like think about shit, that's a good day to do so. So the moon is going to conjunct Uranus. So again, like this could be unexpected truths revealed or just like randomness, random situations brought to life. Also, there is kind of like a little theme of trickery and deception. Nothing major, but just like, little shit. Almost like a kid think that they're being sneaky, but they not really being sneaky, but you kind of like entertain them for sure. So make sure you pay attention to like little things like that, especially if the moon in Taurus, like when the moon conjuncts Taurus, if it does anything, if you do see anything like random or kind of surprises, like please pay attention to it and just note it. Jot it down, even in like your notes app if you want to, And then, so the moon squaring Venus, I do want to pay attention to this because, Venus is about to leave Leo. So I feel like it's kind of important to pay attention to this Venus transit because Monday is such an important day, like emotionally, and paying attention to the subtleties. Because if you pay attention to the subtleties on Monday, it could really set you up for the rest of October. I didn't tell y'all yet, but October is low-key a rough month. Like, I don't want to put that in y'all heads, but honestly, just looking at the astrology, October kind of gives ghetto, like just a little bit, but it's a intense month. It's a rough month. It can come with like lots of intense emotions. You may start to feel like really contradictory as October progresses. You know, people are going to be having mood swings. A lot of the planets are going to be doing weird shit. So, again, like Monday is such an important day. So, really pay attention to those things and find like a sense of grounding and clarity before you continue, please. But anyways, the moon is going to square Venus. This is important because I told y'all Venus is going to go into the sign of Virgo on Sunday. Venus has her fall in Virgo. So Venus, she's doing all right in Leo. You know, she went retrograde in that sign, so it's been a lot, but generally Venus likes Leo. But, and again, Venus and Leo is kind of like, I feel like this summer, the question was asked over and over again. Venus and Leo was telling us, like, what do you want? What do you want? Like, what are your desires? Like, what do you want? Venus went retrograde, and it showed us, like, oh, I actually don't want this. And oh, I actually do want this, and this is how I want to adorn myself. This is what I deserve. Like, this is how I want to treasure myself, or this is what is important to me. This is what I want to focus on. So I feel like if you were intentional and you were paying attention this summer, like Venus going retrograde in Leo and Venus being in Leo for so long was like, oh, what do I want? You know, it was a very like flashy summer, the summer of Barbie. The summer of Taylor Swift and the summer of Beyonce. You know, I feel like the girls were up this summer, but as also people say that it was the summer of breakup. So I feel like a lot of women and people in general, but specifically women, kind of like came into their, this is what I desire, like this is what I want, this is what I deserve, this is how I'm going to treat myself, this is how I'm going to honor myself. So again, like really get solid on like, what do I want? Those wants, really take note of them, really take attention to those desires, because those wants are going to start to be tested. You know, it's going to start to be tested. So note that, do you really, is this what you really desire? Is this how you really feel about this? And if so, like write it down and hold on to it and post it on your closet door, post it on your wall, you know, like get that clarity. And also not, okay, so the moon is squaring Venus, I feel like this, or I'm feeling good, or I'm feeling luxurious, or I want this and I want that, and this is how I honor myself, right? But also, why? Okay, try and dig deeper. Try and find out why I want this because of this. This makes me feel good because it reminds me of, you know, when I was a little girl and I used to pick flowers and put them in my hair. That's why I like to wear this sort of perfume, because it triggers those memories. Try and find deeper. Try to go deeper and try to find or remember the why behind those wants. And remember your desires, even though they may feel unattainable. So even you're like, okay, I desire this or I want this, be honest with yourself and say that, even if a part of you feels like you can't have it. Let's not focus on the can't have. Let's just focus on the feeling for now. That part will come through later, right? So also the last like really cool thing that's going to happen on Monday is that we have the moon in Taurus. The moon's exalted in that sign, so good feeling, nice emotional intelligence, nice like self-care type thing, right? But the moon is going to make a trine to Pluto and a trine to Mercury, which is creating a grand trine in the earth signs and the earthy parts of your chart. So I do think that this is nice because the moon is exalted in Taurus and Mercury is exalted and rules Virgo. Now the whole Pluto and Capricorn situation, that's kind of tricky. But I would pay attention to this because we have two planets in really good conditions. And when I say a planet is like exalted or in its domicile or exalted, that just means that a planet is in a really strong, powerful condition. And when a planet is in a sign that it likes, it has more of the ability to kind of bring through positive expressions and manifestations of that planet, so you're able to use that planet more powerfully. So I do think that, again, this is a good day of like coming up to answers of like as to why, or it's a good day for planning, obsessing the details of things, also checking in with yourself emotionally, seeing how you feel, so the emotional intelligence of it. But then also, I do think that the Pluto and Capricorn is kind of bringing us back to, all right, but my bills still need to be paid. I still need to make money. I still gotta survive on some sort of level. So, okay, this is my desire, and this is my plan to come up with it. But again, like that financial aspect as to like why you may be doing certain things or your responsibilities. And I love that Mercury and Virgo is kind of there to help out. But all of this is happening at like at the end of those signs. So we're on like the last degrees of the earth sign. So like that 26, 27, 28 degree, like that's where we at. So with being in the last degrees of the sign, these emotions could kind of be like fleeting, or just prepare for, for a change. This is not going to be something that is like set in stone, basically. Okay, so let's go into Tuesday. On Tuesday, we're going to have Mercury. Oh, sorry, y'all. Whoop, whoop, whoop. Let's rewind that. My bad. So on Tuesday, we're going to have the moon enter Gemini, and then she's going to square Saturn in Pisces, and then Mercury is going to trine Pluto, and the moon is going to trine the sun in Libra. So with the moon being in Gemini, like we're just gonna people are just gonna be like more chatty, kind of want conversation and to connect with people, those sorts of things. So I do think it's good to kind of like be in a connective mood, to like talk, be chatty, be socialize if you want to. But again, y'all, it's eclipse season, so I say only really hang out with those who you are close to, with those who you really trust. Only talk to those who you're close to, only talk to those who you really trust. And also, if you do want to talk with someone who you like don't trust, it might be a good day to kind of talk to them and see if they spill like ulterior motives or something. So if you are suspicious about a person, how they're coming, their emotions, you may want to talk to them and just see if they reveal something. But I don't think today is a good day to be emotionally vulnerable with people who you don't trust, especially. So, and then again, when you are talking to people, whatever, even if you do trust them, I still don't feel like now is the time to just, you could talk about maybe like the things that upset you or problems that you may be having with people who you trust. But I don't think now is a good time to be talking about like your wants, your desires, those sorts of things, because it's eclipse season. So be careful on giving people information that could be sabotage, or information that could be manipulated in any sort of way. So just be careful about that. But moon is Gemini, people are going to want to talk, people are want to get out, people are going to want to socialize. I think there's nothing wrong with that, but again, just chill. Not extreme, but like chill. So when that moon and Gemini goes to square Saturn in Pisces, again, I do think that this is a like, oh, let me go be a socialite, let me go socialize. But also, okay, there is like Gemini is like surface level, like tea talk conversation, while Saturn and Pisces is like the deep looming spiritual truths, underneath, or like that ocean of emotion or whatever. And then Saturn also could just again be like a stopping force, or it could just be problems or something like that, or it could create like this sort of sober mentality where you're just kind of wanting to, like think responsibly, and you're just kind of reminded of like the issues in life, right? So I do feel like this is a good day to brainstorm problems. And don't underestimate the resource of community, especially elders. So again, if there may be old people have so much wisdom that people really be sleeping on. Like that old woman in your neighborhood who everybody ignores is really a encyclopedia. So if you are having issues with like, with raising your kids, or, issues within your marriage, or just some random shit, your ear hurt and you're like, damn, my ear is hurting. What do I need to do about my ear is hurting? Go talk to that old lady. Go talk to that old man. And see and ask them, when you were a kid and your ear used to hurt, what did your mom do for you? Or, I could see that you have wisdom. I'm having this problem in my life. Do you have any advice for me? What could you recommend for me? So I do think that Tuesday is a beautiful day. Tuesday is a beautiful day to do that. And so even though there may be like a little bit of sobering quality to it, I do think it's still like a nice transit, and especially with the moon trining the sun. So, soak up that good energy. So even though it may be little things that are sobering, or little problems that are kind of like nagging you in the back of your mind, embrace the fact that all of the solutions that you need are available to you. So, your problems are as big as your resources, and we live in an abundant world. We live in an abundant earth. So it may seem like a problem from your perspective, but I promise you have the tools to solve it if you just look. So, Tuesday is a nice day. I like this day. I like the transits. And then Mercury is going to make a direct trine with Pluto and Capricorn. And again, this is just giving like, how am I going to survive? Like, what do I need to do to survive? So Pluto and Capricorn can definitely give like survival mode. Think about when Pluto first went into Capricorn and we had still like the housing crash in '08, whatever. People literally lost their homes, like their way of life. So Capricorn deals with like our material needs, like what needs to be done materially, and Pluto just dramatizes everything. So Pluto is doing some things at the end degrees of Capricorn. So, but with this Mercury Pluto transit, and then again, like Virgo could sometimes be like hypercritical, hyper aware, and just cold sometimes. So again, like take notes of it, but also don't create problems that don't exist. Sometimes when we obsess over things, we create problems that don't exist. And also don't slip into survival mode, because survival mode is a horrible thing to be in. Your brain isn't thinking logically. So again, take that agency within yourself, even if you have to like talk and chat with other people so you're not emotionally drowning in your own head. I do know things that are getting heightened, so just be chill. So Wednesday we have Mercury entering Libra. We also have the moon trining Mars in Libra, and the moon squaring Neptune in Pisces, and Mars opposing the North Node in Aries. So let's talk about this. Again, with Mars opposing the North Node in Aries, this could really foreshadow. If you experienced anything last Friday with that Aries full moon, right? Wednesday could be triggering those same events. So if something that happened on Friday, you notice like something similar or something related to that happen Wednesday, pay attention to it, because again, that could be a bigger theme in your life regarding this axis in your chart, and also these lunations on the Aries Libra axis. So pay attention if something like that happens, anything that kind of like, pushes you towards your destiny, right? So the North Node in Aries is kind of like, okay, a sense of like individualism and initiating, and just like a nice sort of masculinity to it, right? Aries is the first sign of the season, so Aries like wants to go, wants to do. Aries wants to be first. Aries wants to create new things. And we have Mars. He rules that sign, but he's in detriment right now. He's in Libra. So Mars can't wield his sword. He has to wield his pen. So instead of like doing or being like Aries could be selfish sometimes, or being selfish and just thinking about me, how Mars wants to do. Mars has to consider other people's emotions and how can I resolve my problems intellectually, or how can I, understanding. I do think Libra has an innate quality of understanding why. And I also do think that is like the goodness of Mars and Libra, because when you do understand why, let's say a person is acting a way that they are, even if they are your enemy, if you understand the motivations of your enemy, the why of your enemy, the emotions of your enemy, you really know how to defeat them. So I do think that's also, a nice way to think about solving your problems as well. So if anything does like give you problems on Wednesday, or if that full moon last week kind of gave you issues, think about that. Kind of think about solving those issues from the perspective of why are they doing this, and how can I do this like in a more passive way, more intellectually, or more, manipulative. And again, with the moon trining Mars and then squaring Neptune, this is just kind of re-emphasizing to get creative. Like, you may not be able to solve everything by brute force and direct actions, but you can outthink your way out of a bad situation. Sometimes a pen is sharper than a sword. Even if you think about like freaking ethnogenocide, or even like people or indigenous communities and the government outlawing their native language, or putting everything in English so they can't really understand it, or even the government using like sneaky little laws and shit like that, and like school board meetings to like really oppress people, so you don't have to even think about the freaking British Empire. So you don't have to necessarily like go to war and use brute force all of the time, or like directly conquer your enemies by like ripping out their heart and like raping their woman and like stabbing them to death. Like, baby, if you could outsmart them by outthinking them, do it. And then again, so on this day we're having Mercury into Libra, so I don't think this is bad. I feel like Mercury does pretty good in Libra, and then this is giving me sort of the machine, because Libra is a machine. It is the only sign that is a machine, that is a device in the zodiac. So Libra could kind of have like a cold-hearted quality to it, but still wants to look pretty. So yeah, like Libra is a masculine sign, so it could have like this cold-hearted, unfeeling, like the symbol for Libra does not have blood running through its veins. It does not have a bleeding heart. It's literally the scales, which is a mathematical device. So, and then Mercury being there, this could be heightened intellectual abilities and creativities. And this is unique ways about thinking about things, about going about your problems, about answering your problems. This is creating devices to do the work for you. This is creating systems to do the work for you. So start thinking about those things, and depending on, what area of this chart it is. And then again, with these eclipses too. So if you just pay attention to these transits, I feel like Mercury going in Libra is not, he's gonna get shaken up by the eclipses, but this isn't bad. I do feel like this is giving people the intellectual ability to be like, oh, okay, this is noted. This is noted. We can revisit this later. So maybe next time of year when this comes around again, or during spring when these eclipses start hitting again, I could have something in place to catch this. So on Thursday, what do we have? The moon is gonna sextile Venus and Leo. Then she's gonna enter her domicile of Cancer, and she's gonna square Mercury and Libra, and then she's also gonna trine Saturn and Pisces. So I could automatically tell y'all that my favorite transit of this day is the moon in Cancer trine Saturn and Pisces. Like, oh my God, I think that's beautiful. But let me back up. Moon sextile Venus and Leo is not a big deal. But again, this is some of our last contact of the moon with Venus and Leo. So nice flirtatious energy. But also like keep everything surface level. And again, those wants and desires, right? But boom. So then the moon enters Cancer, and this is going to happen in the evening towards the end of the day. So that night, the feels. So you can start feeling more emotional, or just more in tune, more connected with your emotions. And you may start processing some things that you couldn't really process earlier. Don't get me wrong. The moon is exalted in Taurus. The moon was in Taurus in the beginning of the week. So, that is good. But the moon in Cancer, that is heightened emotional intelligence on like another level. So maybe it was something that was going on last week with the full moon, or things that you were, feeling, and you didn't really get a chance to kind of like ruminate on that or break it down. This could kind of be your chance now. And then with the moon in Cancer square that freshly initiated Mercury and Libra, it's what responsibilities need to be done and taken care of, like what actions need to be initiated, like what do I need to do to ensure my own, safety, and to ensure just like a smooth ride, And then also Mercury in Libra has a sort of creative quality to it. That was the word I was thinking for. I was thinking of quality. Mercury in Libra also has a sort of creative quality to it as well. So I think of Mercury in Libra to me is like that inventor, that mad inventor, or like that super smart scientist who sometimes has problems connecting with people emotionally. Or just like that person who could just make everything, But I do think that the moon in Cancer squaring that Mercury in Libra is kind of bringing that emotional quality to it. But also with the moon trying Saturn, that little like survival quality to it. So how am I going to use my mind, my friends, the resources available to me in order to protect myself emotionally, in order to provide structures, for my problems. And so moon trine Saturn. So I do feel like this is like grounding emotions, right? Kind of help you remember why you are doing what you're doing. And I feel like this transit is important to process emotionally, because it may help the next 2 weeks when things start to get rocky. So it's important to remember, like, I'm doing this because of this, or I need to care for myself in this way. Sometimes when we get caught up in our life, the easiest thing for us to push to the side is self-care, we need to make this money, so we hustling and bustling and busting our ass, but we don't, sleep 8 hours, or we don't feed ourselves breakfast because we're too in a rush, or we just like miss certain things that are definitely important. So I feel like that moon trine Saturn is okay. Remember this, like you still need to care for yourself. And also that kind of like, again, that spiritually, all right, I'm doing this because of this, or even again, not to neglect yourself spiritually. Eclipse season, always, always, always up spiritual protection during eclipse season. If you are a sensitive person, or if you are into that sort of thing, like eclipse season, salt baths, like protective crystals, like always, it's eclipse season, anything could happen. So definitely that moon in Cancer trine Saturn in Pisces. Don't forget to protect yourself spiritually. Don't forget to protect yourself emotionally. Don't forget to serve and provide for yourself spiritually and emotionally. That's important as well. And I feel like that really does need to be said. So it's rather, I haven't been praying, or I'm not going to be selfish in a way that like spites others or cause others harm, or I'm not going to, go to these parties or listen to this sort of music, or act in this way, or take this into my body, or engage into these certain relationships or these certain dynamics because they damage me spiritually. And this is something that I simply cannot afford at the moment. So Friday is all lunar transits. The moon's gonna square the sun. She's gonna sextile Jupiter and square Chiron. So I do feel like, again, those are all minor lunar transits, but what it boils down to for me is saying rest in your power and authority. Don't get distracted by anything else. So I do feel like this could feel like a good, confident day, but the key to it is resting in your confidence and not letting anything sort of like distract you from that. Feel more confident about the path that you need to take and the things that you need to do, and like how to care for yourself and the systems that you need to put in place. It could just be a real moment of clarity, just kind of initiating everything that I've been saying this week. If doubts and insecurities creep up, ignore them. Know that you are a leader. You know who you are, and you are a leader. And sometimes, again, like, we could be, especially women could be so selfish and self-sacrificial. But self-sacrificialness is never a good thing, because if you aren't taking care of yourself, you literally can't serve other people, especially in a way that is healthy. All you're doing is damaging them and damaging yourself in the long run. So take care of your needs. Understand that you are the leader and you know what to do. So Saturday, more lunar transits. Then the moon is moving into Leo. Not too much to discuss. So moon trine Neptune. Don't become too distracted by emotion. Don't let them run the narrative. The moon square Mars. Again, like, be focused. Don't lose sight of what you set out to do. Be focused and be motivated. And make shit shake. You are the answers to your own problems. How I was saying. The moon opposes Pluto. Again, pay attention to this. If this moon, like, opposite Pluto, like, triggers you, in some sort of way, if it triggers you, it's gonna be feeling like, your needs and survival. So if that triggers you, like, pay attention, take note of it, because the eclipse that we're having next week is square Pluto. So that's something to take note of. But again, remember your own agency within this. And then the moon enters Leo, so we're gonna start feeling like, more confident and more assured of ourselves. So Sunday, the last day of the week, we're going to have two big transits and then like a little, lunar transit. So Mars is going to square Pluto. Venus is finally going to enter Virgo, and the moon is going to square Jupiter. So let's talk about this. So as I've been saying, like, pay attention to all the subtleties of this week. Really pay attention how you feel. Again, this week could kind of be somewhat of an emotional roller coaster because we are getting into eclipse season. So this is the last major Mars transit before he enters Scorpio. And I love a good Mars in Scorpio because that's Mars in his domicile after Mars has been in like Libra this whole time. Like, Mars is so ready to go into Scorpio. So but with this Mars square Pluto, again, Pluto is playing a factor in the eclipse, so pay attention if it's any like weird things to you. But emotionally, I feel like, again, like, Libra could be cold and inhumane, and Mars can be sometimes like selfish and inhumane as well. So this could be wanting to take shortcuts and do immoral things, or even manipulate or be manipulative for survival. Like, just know that you have options. Keep your integrity, keep your agency, and you will feel better about your abilities in a couple of days. So Mars in detriment squaring Pluto, this could just be that last, like, oh my God, I have no power, I have no control over my life, like, I don't know what to do, I can't defend myself, like, I have no defensive abilities, blah blah blah. So in my fear, in my survival, in like my submissive defensiveness, I'm going to do some like very manipulative, like immoral shit. So this is like setting somebody up type shit, or like abusing weaponizing information, like hiding important information from someone. That could be life-changing, or just manipulating people in like really like sneaky ways that are completely unnecessary. Think about like the government doing crazy shit, but from like a lawmaker perspective. So don't do that. Don't slip into those survival. If those feelings arise, sit with them and really assess where it's coming from. Also, please notice too that eclipses, baby, karma spins the block real quick. Karma spins the block real quick, like during eclipse season. So be careful. Like, if you want to be a bitch, be a bitch. But just know, when that solar eclipse swing around next week and your ass get demolished, know that you had it coming, baby. Know that you had it coming. So yeah, if again this is like a last little panic with Mars being at the end stages of Libra, you will feel better in a couple of days. Sit with those emotions, understand where it's coming from, because if you understand where it's coming from, that could be useful for you for the next 2 years as we experience eclipses on its axis. But it's not really a big deal. Choose this moment to be empowered, even though you may not feel like it, and just not to do anything crazy. So Venus going in Virgo. Let's talk about this. So when Venus goes into Virgo, she's going to be working up towards an opposition with Saturn. And also know that Venus is in detriment in Virgo, which is also like, it's a hard place for her to be, right? So Venus in Leo this whole summer, it's been turbulent, depending on how Leo is set up in your chart and how Venus is set up in your chart. But I feel like it's been turbulent, especially like for just what I've observed as an astrologer, is people having to go through these like harsh, intense lessons of finding out what they want, what they desire, that sort of thing. Like, and having to, rather it's you seeing harshly, realizing that your boyfriend doesn't care for you the way that you care about him, or you're doing this self-sacrificial thing which isn't bringing you pleasure, and you think, okay, I'm going to prioritize myself. So I do feel like at the end stages of Leo, lots of people have learned those lessons and they've gotten to that point where it's like, this is what I want. This is what I desire. I'm empowered. I'm going to treat myself this way. And then Venus goes into fall, you know? So I feel like all this is overthinking. Like, and this is honestly where the real work kind of starts too. So it's like, okay, this is what I want, but how am I actually going to get it, you know? How am I actually going to get it? So I do feel like this is where the shadow work starts. So it's rather, I need to do this or do that, or okay, if I'm going to treat myself with these sort of expectations, I actually have to cut people off. Or if I want to make this level of money, I'm not just going to snap my fingers and it's just going to appear to me magically. I need to raise my frequency, raise my vibration, or I need to work harder, or I need to have more discipline. So I do think that Venus and Virgo is bringing the discipline and also the strategy as to how are you going to get those wants, how are you going to get those desires, how are you going to implement them. So this may be more comfortable for some people than others. I don't necessarily think that this is a bad transit, but again, Venus just wants to be like happy-go-lucky, free. She just wants to like look pretty and be adorned and like ogled over and celebrated, you know. She doesn't want to think and actually have to do like the mental work of like oh, I actually have to do this in order to get that, and I have to think about these things, I have to strategize, I have to come up with a game plan, and I have to think about the details. You know, Venus does not want to do that shit. But you know, Venus into Virgo, so we got to do it. So I feel like that's what that is. And I also do think that, again, like Virgo could sometimes think themselves out of something. So how I said in the beginning, to hold on to that feeling and know that it is desirable, you know, it is desirable, but what I was trying to say, obtainable, that it is obtainable. No, hold on to that feeling. Remember those lessons that you learned during the summer. So even though it may be overwhelming, don't beat yourself up, okay? Don't get hypercritical. Remember your self-esteem and live in your self-esteem. You know, it's still okay to want those things, to desire those things. It's still okay to be that flashy, pretty girl who wants to take up room and who wants to, you know, have attention. All of those things are valid. All of those things are okay, but don't feel discouraged by the work that you have to do to get there. Appreciate the journey and celebrate the journey. And yeah. And then lastly, with that moon in Leo squaring Jupiter, again, and this is that Jupiter and Taurus, that's wants and desires too, right? Or more so is gifts and blessings, but the long run, the long haul. Like, what do I need to do over time to get these things or build up to this certain level in my life. So that has been the astrology of this week, guys. I will see you next week. Next week is quite an interesting week, and we do have that eclipse on Saturday the 14th. So tune in to next week and I will tell y'all more about this cycle of eclipses and kind of themes dealing with eclipses on this axis. And I hope you guys feel blessed. I hope you guys feel empowered. It's actually under an hour, so I'm kind of happy about that. This episode wasn't too long. As always, if you enjoyed this, please share it with other people. Be sure to follow me on social media. And if you would like to know how this interacts personally with your chart, go to my website, book a consultation. Also, if you want any of my other services, they are available on my website. And before we close out, I do want to apologize for missing the last 2 weeks. I was not physically well. I'm sorry about that, guys. But hopefully, I know this month is going to be kind of a chaotic month, but hopefully, let's just hope that October, will be better. And of course, if you want like daily updates and just to like keep in check with me daily, follow me on Instagram because that's really where I'll be talking to y'all all the time. But anyways, I love y'all. Take it easy. Have a blessed week. Thank you for listening and bye bye.